Tom had always wanted a house that felt alive with stories. He loved old buildings because they carried memories, like invisible threads connecting the past and the present. So when he saw a small old home on Maple Street, he felt a shiver of excitement. The house was quiet and unassuming, with faded blue shutters and a crooked fence, but Tom saw beauty in the decay. The garden was overgrown, and the paint on the walls peeled in some places. Yet, in his mind, he imagined sunlight spilling through the windows, furniture from another era, and laughter echoing in the halls. The owner of the house was an elderly woman named Mrs. Benson. She had lived there her entire life, and her eyes sparkled with kindness as she met Tom at the door. She was small and frail, but her voice was steady and calm. "I have loved this house for many years," she said, smiling softly. "It has held my family, my friends, and many happy moments. I hope it will bring you as much joy as it brought me." Tom smiled politely. "I promise to take good care of it," he said. He shook her hand, feeling the strength in her grip despite her age. As she handed him the keys, he felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. This was the start of a new chapter in his life. As Tom walked through the rooms, he noticed the creaking wooden floors, the high ceilings, and the large windows with heavy curtains. Dust covered the furniture, and the air smelled faintly of old wood and memories. He ran his hand along the walls and felt the uneven plaster beneath the wallpaper. The house seemed to hum with life, even though it had been quiet for many years. He imagined the people who had lived here before him. Perhaps children had played in the hallway, running barefoot across the wooden floor. Perhaps someone had sat by the fireplace, reading a book late at night while the wind howled outside. Tom felt like he could almost hear the faint echoes of these past moments, like whispers carried by the walls themselves. Mrs. Benson walked slowly beside him, pointing out details with gentle pride. "This corner was where I kept my piano," she said, pausing by the living room. "Many times, I played music here while my children danced around. And over there," she continued, pointing toward the back window, "we used to sit on the porch and watch the sunsets. Every corner has a story, if you look closely." Tom nodded, his eyes widening with curiosity. "It feels alive," he said softly. Mrs. Benson chuckled. "That is because it is," she replied. "A house like this remembers. It carries the joy, the sadness, and the love of everyone who has lived here. Treat it well, and it will share its stories with you." Tom spent the next hour exploring every room. The kitchen was small, with old cabinets and a large wooden table that had scratches and stains from years of use. He imagined families gathered around it, sharing meals and laughter. The bedrooms were simple, with faded wallpaper that had likely been there for decades. Some of the paint on the walls had chipped, and the floorboards creaked when he stepped on them, but he saw potential. He also noticed the garden outside. It was wild, with tall grass, overgrown bushes, and flowers that had grown freely without care. Yet he could see how beautiful it could become with a little effort. Tom imagined planting new flowers, trimming the bushes, and perhaps adding a small vegetable patch. The thought of transforming the garden gave him hope and a sense of purpose. Mrs. Benson watched him with a soft smile. "I am glad you can see the potential," she said. "This house has been waiting for someone who will give it new life. It has been patient, but it is ready for you now." Tom nodded. "I feel honored," he said. He could not explain why, but he felt a deep connection to the house. It was as if the house had been waiting for him all along. The walls seemed to hum softly, the floorboards seemed to welcome him, and the air carried a strange sense of familiarity. After inspecting the rooms, Tom moved to the attic. It was dark and dusty, with beams of sunlight filtering through small windows. The air smelled of old wood and forgotten memories. He found boxes filled with old photographs, letters, and objects left behind by previous residents. Some of the photographs showed families smiling in front of the house, children playing in the garden, and couples celebrating birthdays or anniversaries. Tom carefully lifted a photograph of a young woman standing in front of the house. She smiled at the camera, holding a small child in her arms. He wondered who she was and what her story had been. Every photograph seemed to tell a piece of the house's history. He realized that this house was not just a building, it was a keeper of memories, a silent witness to generations of lives. When Tom returned downstairs, Mrs. Benson was waiting with a gentle expression. "You see," she said, "this house has lived many lives, and now it will live yours." Tom felt a shiver run down his spine, but it was not fear. It was awe. He had bought an old house, but it felt much more than that. It felt like a bridge to the past, a place where stories lingered, waiting to be discovered. As he left that day, carrying the keys in his pocket, he looked back at the house. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the blue shutters and the crooked fence. For a moment, the house seemed to shimmer, as if acknowledging its new owner. Tom smiled, feeling excitement and anticipation. He did not know what he would find inside, but he was ready to uncover its secrets and make it his home. That night, Tom lay in bed thinking about the house. He imagined waking up to sunlight streaming through the windows, hearing the whispers of the past, and discovering the stories hidden within the walls. He knew that living in this house would be an adventure, full of surprises and mysteries waiting to be revealed. And so, Tom began his journey with the old house on Maple Street. It was not just a building to him, it was a living story, ready to welcome him into its memory. The next morning, Tom returned to the old house on Maple Street with a fresh sense of purpose. He had spent the night imagining the possibilities, and now he was ready to begin restoring it. The first thing he decided to do was the living room. The wallpaper there had faded with time, peeling at the corners and curling along the edges. He had always been curious about what lay beneath old layers, and today he would finally find out. Tom put on his gloves, grabbed a scraper, and positioned himself in the corner of the room. He tested the edge of the wallpaper with the tool and felt it lift easily from the wall. At first, it was just ordinary beige wallpaper with a faint floral design. But as he pulled it away in strips, he began to notice something unusual. Beneath the paper, the wall was not plain. There were faint lines, almost like drawings pressed into the plaster, that seemed to form shapes and patterns. At first, Tom thought it was a trick of the light. Perhaps the wall had been textured, or perhaps dust and age had created the shapes. Yet, as he continued, the patterns grew more distinct. He paused and knelt to examine a small section. The lines were arranged carefully, forming what looked like the outlines of people. He could make out small figures of adults, children, and even animals. They were frozen in poses that suggested daily life, reading, walking, playing, or simply sitting together. Tom felt a shiver run through him. He had seen many old houses, but never anything like this. These figures were not painted. They were etched into the wall itself, as though someone had pressed them there long ago. He peeled another strip of wallpaper, revealing a new scene. This one was more detailed, a family gathered around a table, smiling and holding hands. The expressions on their faces were faint, but clear enough to see joy and warmth. His curiosity grew, and he carefully removed more strips, working from one corner of the room to the other. The walls told stories, each panel revealing moments from the past. He saw children playing in a garden, a couple dancing, a person reading by the fireplace. Each scene felt alive, almost as if it had been captured by the house itself. Tom wondered how this could be. He had never heard of walls recording memories like this. As he uncovered the wall, he noticed something that made him freeze. One of the figures looked remarkably familiar. At first, he thought he was imagining things. But the more he stared, the more certain he became. The face of a young woman in one of the scenes bore a striking resemblance to Mrs. Benson. It was her, many years younger, smiling and holding a child. Tom could not explain how this image had appeared here. The plaster walls seemed to preserve the past in an astonishing way. He moved carefully to the next section, heart pounding. The figures seemed to change as he revealed more of the wall. He saw people in ordinary moments, a mother brushing her child's hair, a man fixing a broken chair, children playing with a dog. Each scene was peaceful and ordinary, yet extraordinary in its detail. Tom felt like he was watching life itself frozen in time. Then he noticed something that made him gasp. One of the figures, standing near the corner of the wall, had features that looked almost like his own. He stepped back and studied the image carefully. His hair, his posture, even the shape of his hands seemed reflected in the figure. Tom could not believe what he was seeing. How could a wall show him before he even lived there? The thought was both terrifying and fascinating. He decided to take a break and sat on the old wooden floor. The sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the uncovered sections of the wall. He realized that this house was no ordinary house. It remembered the lives of the people who had lived there. Each family, each moment, had left an imprint, captured forever in the walls. Tom's own presence seemed to awaken something, as though the house was aware of its new resident. After a few minutes, he stood again and continued carefully removing the wallpaper. He worked methodically, strip by strip, revealing more stories. He found a small girl drawing with chalk on the floor, a man reading a newspaper, a woman cooking in the kitchen. The walls held decades of memories, all layered beneath the faded wallpaper. Each image was detailed and precise, as if the house had watched and remembered every action, every smile, and every tear. Tom felt a mix of fear and awe. He had never believed in haunted houses or supernatural events, but this felt different. It was not frightening. It was like stepping into a living history book. He could see the love, the care, and the joy of generations that had lived here. The house was not just a structure, it was a keeper of memories, a silent witness to the lives of many. He paused and touched one of the figures etched into the plaster. His fingers brushed the wall, and he felt a strange warmth, almost as if the memories themselves were alive. He stepped back and looked around the room. The entire wall was covered in images now, each telling a different story. He realized that the house had been waiting for someone who could see these moments, someone who would understand and respect them. Tom's thoughts returned to Mrs. Benson. Perhaps she had known all along that he would uncover these secrets. She had smiled when she handed him the keys, as if she had expected him to find something extraordinary. Now he understood why she had said the house was alive. The walls were more than decoration, they were a record of life itself, preserved and waiting to be discovered. He continued working for hours, uncovering more and more of the hidden stories. Each strip of wallpaper revealed a new moment, a new memory. Tom realized that this was not just a renovation project, it was a journey into the past. The house was showing him the lives of those who had come before, and he felt a deep connection to them all. As evening approached, Tom stepped back to look at the uncovered walls. The living room was transformed. The wallpaper was gone, and the plaster walls revealed hundreds of memories, etched into the surface with astonishing detail. Tom felt a sense of awe and wonder. He knew that he was not just restoring a house, he was entering a place that held the lives of many people, a place that had stories to tell. For the first time, Tom understood that this house was special. It was not just old, it was alive in its own way, a living memory of the past. And now, he was part of it, the newest story in a long chain of lives remembered by the walls themselves. Tom could not stop thinking about the walls of the living room. The memories etched into the plaster were not just drawings or patterns. They were real moments, frozen and preserved. Each image seemed to tell a story, a small piece of life that had taken place long ago. But now, as he studied them more closely, he began to notice something unsettling. Some of the figures looked familiar. At first, he thought it was imagination. Perhaps he was tired, or perhaps the human mind simply tried to connect unknown faces with familiar ones. But as he walked around the room, inspecting each wall, he realized that one of the images showed a young woman holding a child who looked exactly like him. His heart skipped a beat. The resemblance was too strong to ignore. The more he looked, the more he noticed details that seemed to mirror his own life. The way the child stood, the way he held his hands, even the expression on the face, everything seemed identical. Tom stepped back and rubbed his eyes. He had read stories about houses with history, about old homes that carried secrets. He had never believed them. But now, standing in this room, he felt a chill that was not caused by the wind or the cold floor. The walls seemed alive. The plaster and paint held memories that reached beyond time, almost as if the house could see the future as well as the past. He decided to take a closer look at the wall near the fireplace. The wallpaper there had peeled slightly, and he carefully removed more strips. The new section revealed a family celebrating a birthday. Balloons were drawn on the wall, and a cake sat on a table with tiny figures clapping their hands. Tom noticed a small boy in the image. The boy's hair, his smile, even the tilt of his head reminded him of himself. How could this be? He had never lived here before. Tom felt a strange mix of fear and wonder. He could not explain what he was seeing. The house seemed to remember people it had never known, moments it could not have witnessed. He felt as if the walls were speaking to him, showing him stories that were connected to him in ways he did not understand. Every new strip of wallpaper revealed more scenes, each one more detailed than the last. As he continued, he found a scene that made him stop completely. There, near the corner of the room, was an image of a young woman standing in front of a small table. She was smiling, holding a cup, and looking toward the viewer. The more Tom studied the face, the more he realized that it was Mrs. Benson, many years younger. The details were uncanny. The way she tilted her head, the shape of her eyes, even the gentle curve of her smile matched the woman who had sold him the house. Tom's mind raced. Could the house be recording the lives of the people who had lived there? Or was it something more? He began to feel that the house was aware of him, watching him as he uncovered its secrets. It was not hostile, but it demanded attention and respect. He realized that he was not merely renovating an old home, he was entering a space that held a record of life itself. He walked to the back wall, where the sunlight fell softly through the windows. The plaster there was smoother, and the images were clearer. He saw a young girl drawing on the floor, her hair tied in a small ribbon. She was smiling, completely absorbed in her task. Tom's chest tightened. Something about her reminded him of a cousin from his childhood, someone he had not thought about in years. The walls seemed to reach into his memories, connecting him to people and places he had loved. Then Tom noticed something that made him gasp. In the corner of the wall, partially hidden by a shadow, was a figure that looked very much like him. The posture, the shape of the hands, and even the tilt of the head matched his own reflection perfectly. He felt a shiver run down his spine. The plaster had captured a moment of his life, a moment that had not yet happened. How could this be? He had only just arrived at the house. Tom stepped back, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The walls were not just a record of the past. They were a mirror, reflecting him in ways he could not explain. Each figure seemed alive, full of emotion and movement, frozen in time. He realized that the house was not ordinary. It had a memory, a consciousness that went beyond understanding. The house remembered, and it revealed its memories to those who were ready to see them. He sank to the floor, breathing heavily. He had never felt anything like this before. The house was teaching him something, showing him the connections between life, memory, and time. Each family that had lived here left a mark, each moment preserved like a photograph etched into the walls. And now he was part of that chain. The house had begun to record him, and he was only just beginning to understand what that meant. Hours passed as Tom continued to work. He uncovered more walls, revealing images of people laughing, talking, cooking, and playing. He saw families celebrating small victories, children learning new skills, and couples enjoying quiet moments together. Every figure seemed alive, as if the house had captured the essence of their emotions. Tom felt honored to witness it. He realized that these memories were precious, a gift from the past to the present. As evening fell, the room glowed in the soft light of the setting sun. Tom stepped back to admire the walls. The living room was transformed. The plaster revealed hundreds of memories, each one unique and meaningful. He felt a deep connection to the people whose lives were recorded here, as if the house had welcomed him into their stories. He thought again of Mrs. Benson. Perhaps she had known that the house was special. Perhaps she had hoped he would understand its power and respect its secrets. He realized that he was not alone. The house had guided him to this moment, and he could feel its presence, gentle and watchful. Tom took a deep breath and placed his hand on the wall. The plaster felt warm beneath his fingers, almost alive. He could feel the emotions of the people captured there, the joy, the love, and even the quiet sadness of their lives. The house was not haunted by ghosts, it was alive with memory. And now, he was part of its story. As night fell, Tom sat on the floor, staring at the walls. He knew that he would never see a house like this again. It was not just a building, it was a keeper of lives, a silent witness to generations. And he was part of it now, the newest chapter in a long chain of memories. He whispered to himself, almost in awe, "This house, it remembers everything." And for the first time, Tom realized that he was not just living in an old house. He was living in a living story, surrounded by the echoes of life itself. The next morning, Tom could not shake the images he had uncovered on the living room walls. The faces, the scenes, and especially the figure that looked like him haunted his thoughts. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw the plaster walls and the frozen moments of life inside them. Something about the house was extraordinary, unlike anything he had ever experienced. By mid-morning, he decided he could not keep his discovery to himself. He needed answers. He picked up his phone and called Mrs. Benson. After a few rings, her gentle voice answered. "Hello, Tom. How are you today?" she said warmly. Her tone made him feel calm, yet nervous at the same time. "Mrs. Benson, I think there is something special about the house," Tom said, trying to find the right words. "The walls, they have images. Real images. They look like people, like families, and I think one even looks like me." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Mrs. Benson's voice grew softer, almost as if she had been waiting for this moment. "I thought you might see it soon," she said. "It is why I felt you would understand this home. Some things in life are meant to be discovered, not explained. But since you are ready, I will tell you what I know." Tom listened carefully, leaning against the kitchen counter. He felt a mixture of relief and nervousness. "Please, tell me," he said quietly. Mrs. Benson took a deep breath. "This house is alive in its own way. It remembers everyone who has lived here. It keeps moments of joy, sadness, and love. Each family leaves a part of itself behind, a memory etched into the walls. Some houses are just wood and stone, but this one has a memory, a heart, and a story that grows with each person who calls it home." Tom's mind raced. But how? How can walls remember people? How can they show images of the past, or even of me? Mrs. Benson's voice was calm, but there was a weight to her words. "The house is special. It records life, not like a camera, but like a living memory. The images you see are impressions of moments from the past. Some people call it magic. I call it memory. And sometimes, when a new person comes, the house senses them and begins to capture their presence as well." Tom's heart pounded. "So, you mean the house knew I would come here? That it was waiting for me?" "Yes," Mrs. Benson said gently. "This house chooses people who will respect it. It reveals its secrets to those who can understand. You are part of its story now, Tom. The walls have begun to remember you, even as you are still discovering it." Tom could not take his eyes off the phone. He had expected answers, but not ones that made the house feel so alive. "But why me?" he asked. "I am just me." "You are enough," she replied. "Every person leaves a mark. Some houses forget, some do not. This one does not forget. It waits, watches, and remembers. You came here with care and respect, and that is why it shows you its memories. It is not just a house. It is a friend, a keeper of life, and now a part of you as you are a part of it." After the call ended, Tom sat quietly for a long time, absorbing her words. He ran his hand over the plaster wall. The figures were still there, frozen in their moments, yet somehow alive. The child playing in the garden, the couple dancing by the fireplace, the young woman smiling with a cup in her hand, they all seemed to glow with quiet energy. He realized that he was looking at more than art or decoration. He was witnessing life itself, preserved in a way that defied logic. The house was showing him that every life mattered, that every moment was important. And now he had a responsibility. He could not destroy these memories. He had to respect them, to care for them, and to continue the story in his own way. With renewed purpose, Tom decided to explore more rooms. The kitchen, the bedrooms, and even the attic had layers of stories waiting to be uncovered. Each wall told a story of someone who had laughed, cried, or loved within these spaces. The house was like a library, and the stories were its books. He felt a deep respect for the home, understanding that every step he took was part of a long history. In the attic, he discovered a trunk left by Mrs. Benson. Inside were letters, photographs, and small personal items. Some of the photographs were of her family, smiling in front of the house. Others were of neighbors, friends, and even strangers who had visited over the years. Tom felt a sense of connection to everyone in the trunk, as if their lives were part of his own story now. He spent hours carefully examining each item, feeling a warmth he could not explain. The house had taught him that life was fragile, beautiful, and important. Every laugh, every smile, every quiet moment mattered. And the house preserved these moments, reminding anyone who lived there to cherish them. As the day passed, Tom noticed something remarkable. The figure that looked like him on the living room wall had shifted slightly. The posture seemed more relaxed, the expression more curious. He could not explain it, but it felt as if the house was responding to him, acknowledging his presence. He realized that he was not only observing the memories, he was interacting with them in some mysterious way. By evening, Tom felt a deep sense of peace. He understood that this house was more than a building. It was alive in memory, full of stories that connected the past to the present. He was now part of that chain, and he knew that the walls would continue to record his life as he lived in the house. He sat by the window, watching the sun set over Maple Street. The shadows grew long, and the house glowed in the soft evening light. Tom smiled, feeling a bond with the home and with the lives it had preserved. He had discovered a world beyond his understanding, but it was not frightening. It was beautiful, full of life, and full of possibility. Before going to bed, he walked once more through the living room. He touched the plaster gently, running his fingers along the etched figures. The warmth of the wall seemed to reassure him. The house had chosen him, shared its secrets, and now trusted him to continue its story. He whispered quietly to himself, "I will take care of you, and I will honor your memories." For the first time, Tom felt completely at home. He realized that the house had given him something rare, a connection to the past, a glimpse into lives lived, and a responsibility to cherish every moment of his own life. He was no longer just a homeowner, he was a guardian of memories, a participant in the story of a remarkable house. And as he turned off the lights and climbed the stairs to his bedroom, he knew that the walls were still watching, still remembering, and still welcoming him as part of their living history. The next morning, Tom woke up early, feeling a strange excitement and a quiet nervousness. The house had already begun to feel like more than just walls and furniture. It had become alive in his mind, a space where memories lingered and stories waited to be discovered. Today, he decided, he would continue exploring every room and uncover the final secrets the house had been holding. He started with the living room, where he had seen so many etched figures. The plaster walls seemed to shimmer softly in the morning light. Tom walked slowly along the edges of the room, running his fingers gently across the images. The figures were clear, full of life, and detailed beyond imagination. He noticed that some of the faces he had not recognized before were starting to feel familiar. He realized that the house was teaching him something. Life was connected, and moments could reach across generations to touch people who had never even known each other. Tom moved to the kitchen next. He had already uncovered small portions of the walls here, but now he decided to remove every bit of the old wallpaper. As he peeled away the layers, he discovered more scenes etched into the plaster. Children were learning to cook with their parents, families were laughing around a table, and quiet moments of care and love were frozen in time. Each image seemed to glow faintly, almost like the memories themselves were alive. As he uncovered more of the walls, Tom noticed something remarkable. There, near the corner of the kitchen, was an image that seemed to respond to his presence. The figure of a small boy turned his head slightly toward Tom. It looked exactly like him as a child. Tom froze for a moment, feeling a deep connection. The house was not only remembering the past, it was acknowledging him, and somehow guiding him to understand its magic. He realized that he had become part of the house's story. Every step he took, every action he made within these walls, was being recorded in subtle ways. The house was alive in memory, watching and preserving moments with care and precision. Tom felt a strange joy and pride in this realization. He was not just observing the past, he was participating in the living story of the home. After the kitchen, he explored the bedrooms. The wallpaper there had been faded and peeling for decades. As he carefully removed it, he discovered more scenes etched into the plaster. Couples resting quietly, children studying or playing, and people reading or writing. Each scene was vivid and full of life. Tom felt as if he could step into each moment and witness life exactly as it had happened. In one corner of the master bedroom, Tom found a figure that made him pause. It was Mrs. Benson again, many years younger, sitting at a desk and writing in a notebook. The expression on her face was thoughtful, gentle, and kind. Tom felt a wave of gratitude. She had known the house was special, and she had chosen him to continue its story. The house had trusted him, and now he understood the depth of that trust. Tom moved to the attic next. It was dusty, filled with forgotten items, boxes, and old furniture. But as he explored, he found more memories etched into the walls there. He saw children playing with toys, couples talking quietly in the corner, and a young man reading under a small window. He realized that every room, every corner of the house, held memories waiting to be discovered. He spent hours in the attic, carefully examining each wall. Some of the images were familiar, resembling people he had seen before, while others were unknown. But all of them carried emotion. Joy, curiosity, laughter, care, and even moments of quiet thoughtfulness were preserved in the plaster. The house was teaching him a valuable lesson. Every life mattered, every moment was precious, and memories could last beyond time. By late afternoon, Tom stepped back and looked at the walls of the house. He could see that he had uncovered hundreds of scenes. The home had shared its secrets with him, trusted him with its memories, and invited him to become a part of its story. Tom felt a deep sense of peace and belonging. He realized that the house was not just a building, it was a living archive of human life, full of emotion, history, and connection. Tom returned to the living room, where the figure that resembled him as a child was still etched in the plaster. He placed his hand on the wall, feeling a warmth that he could not explain. He understood now that the house was not only a keeper of memories, it was also a guide, helping him see the importance of life and the connections that tie people together across generations. He thought again of Mrs. Benson and the words she had spoken. The house remembers, she had said. It preserves moments of love and care, joy and learning. Tom realized that he had been given a rare opportunity. He could protect these memories, honor the lives that had been lived here, and add his own story to the house's living history. That evening, as the sun set over Maple Street, Tom lit a small lamp in the living room. The light reflected softly on the etched figures, making them glow gently. He walked slowly around the room, looking at the memories with a sense of wonder. Each face, each scene, told a story that mattered. He felt a profound respect for the house and everyone who had lived here before him. He sat on the old wooden floor, breathing slowly, and reflected on the journey. From the moment he had bought the house, it had welcomed him, shown him its secrets, and connected him to generations of life. The house was alive in a way he could not have imagined, and he was honored to be a part of it. Tom whispered to himself, his voice soft but steady. I will take care of you. I will honor the lives you remember, and I will cherish every moment here. He could feel the house responding in its quiet way, the warmth of the plaster and the glow of the etched figures seeming to acknowledge his promise. Days passed, and Tom continued to explore, restore, and care for the house. He decorated the rooms carefully, respecting the memories etched into the walls. He planted flowers in the garden, cleaned the floors, and repaired the old furniture. Each action felt like a continuation of the story that had begun long before he arrived. Over time, he noticed something extraordinary. The etched figures seemed to shift slightly with his presence, as if they were interacting with him. The small boy in the kitchen smiled a little brighter when Tom walked past, the children in the attic seemed more lively, and the couples in the bedrooms appeared more relaxed and joyful. The house was alive in memory, but it also responded to the care and attention of its new resident. Tom realized that he had found more than a home. He had found a living story, a place where past and present merged, where memories were preserved, and where life continued in a quiet, magical way. He felt a deep connection to the house, a sense of belonging that he had never experienced before. As night fell, Tom climbed the stairs to his bedroom, looking back at the living room one last time before going to bed. The walls glowed faintly in the soft lamplight, the etched figures peaceful and full of life. Tom smiled, feeling a sense of completion. The house had accepted him, shared its secrets, and welcomed him as part of its living memory. He lay in bed that night, calm and happy. He understood that he was not just a visitor in the house. He was part of its story, part of the chain of lives that it preserved. He closed his eyes, feeling a deep sense of peace. The house remembered. The house protected its memories. And now, Tom was part of them forever. For the first time in his life, Tom felt truly at home. He knew that he would care for this house, honor its history, and continue the story that had been waiting for someone to understand it. He realized that some houses are just buildings, but this one was alive, full of memory, and full of love. And so, the old house on Maple Street, with its etched walls and glowing memories, had found its newest guardian. Tom had become part of its story, and the story would continue, carrying the lives of the past into the present, and welcoming the moments of the future with open arms.